Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ghost Biker Garage. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. We've got a great guest, but we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. He's working on getting on here, so I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about some of the different things that we've got going on here, and maybe that will give him a chance to get on here live. So, thank you guys again so much for bearing with me last week. It feels like it's been a month since I've been on, even though we had to miss last week because my sister ended up having surgery and I was staying with her at the hospital. And so we had to postpone last week's guest, which is the Fallen Hour podcast. They're going to be on in a couple weeks. We're able to get them rescheduled. But it's amazing how whenever you miss a week, just how long it feels since being on again. So again, thank you guys so much for bearing with us. I do want to say a special thank you on that. As I had mentioned on the page last week, my sister, she was diagnosed with tongue cancer, and she ended up having to go in for surgery. She had 30 lymph nodes removed, and she also had to have a section of her tongue removed. And so she was in the hospital for a couple days. But you guys really stepped in and just really shielded her with prayer and positive thoughts and white light and good vibes. And she told me she could feel it when she went into surgery. And I was just completely overwhelmed by the beautiful messages and the kind thoughts and everything that everyone did. So, from the bottom of my heart and my family, I just want to say thank you all so much for sending the prayers. She did get a very, very positive pathology report today. They went in, checked out those 30 lymph nodes, and there was no cancer in the lymph nodes. And she also they only had a few precancerous cells that they were able to remove from the tongue, but they did get most of the stuff during the original biopsy. So, anyways, thank you all so much for that. That really does mean so much to us. So that aside, we do have a whole lot of big events that are coming up. One is at the historic Scott County Jail on Saturday, and that is the Blessing of the Bike event. That's going to take place in the parking lot of the historic Scott County Jail this Saturday, kicking off riding season as well as Easter weekend. A very positive note with some food, fellowship, blessings, and with some history and hauntings there. That's going to start. The Jailhouse Museum is going to open at 9 a.m. The food truck is going to arrive at 11 a.m. And then we're going to gather there in the parking lot. Hopefully, we can fill that parking lot up with lots and lots of motorcycles. And we're going to have that at noon. So I hope you guys will come and check that out. If you haven't, I'm going to actually go ahead and share the screen right quick. Like I said, just kind of waiting for the guests to be able to hop on here in just a few minutes. But if you want more information about the Blessing of the Bike event, you can go to www.historicscottcojail.com, go to our events tab, and we have all of our motorcycle events listed on here. And we've got the information about the Blessing of the Bike event that will be taking place on Saturday. So hope to see a lot of you guys out there. Weather's been a little crazy. We had some storms and stuff this week, but hoping all of that is pushed out of the area and that we'll have a good day. We did speak to the ride leader that's going to be from the Christian Motorcyclist Association that's going to be coming and doing our Blessing of the Bikes, and he said they will be there rain or shine. So we will too, and I hope you guys will come on out and check that out. The next event we've got planned is the second annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship Dart Run. That's going to be on May 21st. And we're super excited about that because we're going to be hosting the first stop at the jail. We'll have a little more information about that at the end of the show. But we raised a lot of money last year. We actually just picked the scholarship winner this week. And so we're going to be presenting last year's this year's scholarship on the day of the dart run on the 21st. So again, we'll have a little more information about that. And if you're not able to make the dart run and you do want to make a donation to the Harold Young Memorial Scholarship, you can actually do that. We will have the information where you can send those donations in. It goes to a good cause, to a student from Scott High School that is majoring in the field of sciences. So so that's just a few things that are coming up here that we're really excited about, that we've really been working on. We do also have a bunch of events at the jail. If you are interested in doing a guided ghost hunt with myself and Dr. Christy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal, we have a few tickets for those left. We've got a ghost hunt tomorrow night. We've got 3 tickets left to that. We've got sold out night on Saturday. And then I think we maybe have an event at the end of the month on the 29th. Dr. Sumner can definitely confirm that. And like she said, here is the link to the jail. So it looks like my guest has been able to make it online, which again, I'm so excited. Any opportunity that I get to talk to Mr. David Crider, it's always awesome. So just want to say hello for a few minutes to a few people here in the chat room before we pull him on. Hey, Dr. Sumner, Russ, Carl. I'm really excited. Russ and Carl are going to be my guests next week, and I'm actually going to be able to meet them in person next weekend at the St. Albans EnigmaCons event. So looking forward to that. Hello, Sarah Jane, and hello, Joe. And hello to the rest of you that I'm maybe not seeing here in the chat room. If you have any questions for myself as well as Mr. David Crider, then feel free to put those in the comments over there. We'll make sure we get to them, and we'll just kind of go ahead and get gonna really waste too much time here interviewing my guest, because I know we've got a whole lot to talk about. But he is, I had the pleasure of being able to meet him back in October when I was out at the Las Cruces Paracon. We've spoken multiple times since, because he's doing something very similar to what Dr. Sumner and I are doing, but he's doing it out in New Mexico at the Donna Anna Courthouse. And he's the founder of Southwest Expeditions. So I'm gonna go ahead, bring him on here, and we'll get everything started. Hey, David.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing
Thanks for
great.
having
How are
me
you?
on. Oh, good, good. I apologize. I was running. We just finished. We do the day tours, obviously, and we had a tour out at what we call Kilburn Hole. It's an ancient Mars crater, and we just got back kind of later than what we thought. It's kind of ways out there, so I was hauling butt to get back here and rushing into the house, and then of course the computer decides to freeze up. So my apologies. So it's good to be here.
No, that's fine. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I know you're very
Sure.
busy with everything you've got going on out there.
Well, thanks. It's we do tours, and we started the second branch of what we do is the Southwest Paranormal Adventures, only because of the activity that we're currently in the building at the 1937 courthouse. But then talking with other folks in the area, in the city, they offered a couple other buildings for us to do what we do, because they've noticed it brings a lot of folks in. And so we've got the Rio Grande Theater, which is a 1920s theater, lined up, as well as the Amador Hotel. We're working on both of them downtown, 1890s hotel there. And then a 1910 schoolhouse we just finished investigations on to put that on the tour. That's a tour through. It's a museum, actually, in an old schoolhouse, and just creepy, to say the least. I know this is your business. It's not necessarily mine. I just do it as far as the tours. That place gives me the honest creeps, even more so than and I know what's going on in the courthouse. It's just a different vibe in there. I guess because you don't know them. I've been 5.5 years in this courthouse, and you kind of get to know what a little to expect, being it's not normal anyway, but you get to get used to who's in there. This 1910 schoolhouse, I don't know anybody there, and it's kind of, I've had some experiences there already, so I can't say I'm looking forward to doing the first. We booked out their first tour there. It's coming up, and there's 10 people. It's a van. We drive them over, and then go through. And the owner of the place, is coming out. She's gracious enough to go through her experiences, which are fantastic in itself, and then we'll do some sessions there and seeing what we can see. But yeah, it's very active building. And then we do in the final put-togethers of the Mesilla walking tour, the ghost tours, and that's you visited Mesilla. It's a
Yes.
very quaint plaza here with an old church and um, built in the late 1800s. And so there's about 10 buildings we've chosen from doing interviews that have activity in them, and we're gonna do a walking evening tour with lanterns on that one.
Wow, that's wonderful.
So
And, as Dr. Sumner says there, congrats on getting these new locations. That's incredible.
yeah, well, they kind of like you'd said in your place when you're doing all the stuff you guys did, which blows my mind. I would not have the energy to do what you did to let your town convince them and show them with your facts and figures. I never did all of that. It's just that was be a little much for me, but they were watching from the sidelines. They saw the cars out front. We normally, like for this Saturday, we're booked out on another ghost tour through the building. There's 52 people coming out. So we divide those
Wow.
into two groups. Fortunately, it's a large enough building we can do that. It's 37,000 square feet for the jail or for the courthouse and 17,000 for the jail annex attached. So we split them up, and I have PRI, a paranormal investigation team, come up and help me out with those things. So those have been booking out every month, twice a month, and it surprises me actually, quite frankly, is I was going, holy cow, because when I first got into this, I was doing them anytime I didn't have anything else to do. Let's do a ghost tour. It never dawned on me, well, that one sold out, and we would do them once a quarter, maybe once a year, a Halloween type thing.
Mhm.
I never realized how much interest there is here of people that generally want to get scared, or two, they really want to. We have a lot of investigator teams come out from all over the country to spend time in the building, and some of the more well-known ones, the show guys, Paranormal Files with Colin, and he just came out, and then Ghost Adventures with Zach and his crew. They were in the building, so I guess that helps too, to get the word out. But yeah, it's really amazed me actually just how much interest there is. And these other tours, as soon as we put them on, they start booking, and it's going, holy cow, am I in the wrong business? Because I am a tour operator. That's what I love doing, and mainly outdoor tours, adventure tours. And so this is new to me. So I'm learning the ghost side of the business, I guess.
So is it mostly locals that are coming, or are you finding that you're kind of reaching out to other areas as well?
Well, in our area, the big cities we have here is Albuquerque, and then El Paso, is Texas, but it's a sister city here. Of course, Las Cruces. Then we have some outlying little smaller towns and cities. But it started out mainly El Paso guys because I was advertising a lot down there. They're a bigger city,
Mhm.
but now there's this last group of 50 something people that were in it. About 46 were Las Crucians, and which is we've never had that. It's always been out of town folks. So even they're knowing. But then we have some couple big military bases here, and they've heard about it now, and they come out with 10, 15 guys to experience this. So it's really caught on there. But we try to advertise ourselves through Facebook, basically, and word of mouth is in the southern New Mexico area. Um, but everyone say go farther, because people would come for this. And to me, I don't get that yet. It hasn't sunk into me, but eventually, hopefully, it will. But we also, what ties up our time in the building now, we just had, Dolph Lundgren he's an actor. He
Yeah,
played
yeah.
in as a fighter
Mhm.
um, against Stallone. Well, he was in the building last week with his entourage. They're filming a movie in there, and he's going to star in it. And that long hallway in the jail, it's 185 feet hallway. They're going to convert that
Mhm.
into a tunnel, like a drug running smuggling tunnel from Mexico to Texas that we have here down here. And they're going to put sand down in there, and it's going to convert it to a tunnel. It's going to be a you know a gunfight and shoot them out type thing, and running drugs and things like that. So that's going to be the entire month of May that they booked out the place, and the first weekend in
Wow.
June. And then we've got another movie. They can't tell me who the actors are. They're two two big guys, two big stars, but they haven't signed the contracts yet. It's coming in right after them for a couple, 2, 3 weeks for some scenes in there. So now I'm trying to work our way around movie guys, because when they come over, they just completely take over a building.
Wow, so I guess they rent it day and night for that, anytime they need to
Yes.
film?
We've tried to work with them before on saying, okay, if you're running shooting during the day, we'll get in here at night. I found out quickly that's just not reality, because they'll have set guys in there, prop guys in there after hours, scene guys, painting stuff, redoing stuff, and getting ready for another shoot. So they'll be in there till 12, 1 in the morning. And so that really impacts our evening stuff that we do. Plus they've got cables and, their lights and props and everything else that you can imagine in there. They take up the parking lots with probably 20 trailers when they pull in, especially the guys like those guys, they have VIP trailers and everything like that. They set up in the courtroom is their break room, basically the cafeteria, and that stays open most of the time. So it's a whole production. Yeah.
Wow.
When they come in, it's fun to watch, but it's and we charge them accordingly, of course. But New Mexico is becoming a really film capital because of the tax breaks that they get from our state. And
Mhm.
so we just got 2 films just filmed back to back, and they just did little things in here, only a day or 2 shots and some B-roll. But these are major ones coming in, so yeah, we'll work with
Wow.
them.
So how was
Yeah,
that
that whole hallway there,
transitioning?
they're going to be that's going to be the tunnel that they're going to be doing. Um,
Okay.
well,
And that's a
it
creepy
started slow at
hallway.
first. Yeah, yeah. His girlfriend, I guess he's going to marry her, and she's going to play some part in it. She's a fitness type instructor. I was just talking to somebody because they were talking off to their cells saying we're going to do this and this and this, and I was talking to my guys. We got to cut the locks off this thing so we can get access to this hallway, and
Wow.
that'll be great for the ghost tour. They go, ghost, excuse me, there's ghosts in here? And I said, well, yeah. So she runs over to the Dolph guy. She goes, Dolph, they said this place is haunted. And he says, well, of course it is. It's a jail. He said, what do you expect? He just blew it off, but she was pretty apprehensive about it. So I think they'll get through that.
Wow.
We just had one of the other things, we're always looking for ways of different income streams.
Mhm.
Um, and so we had some airsoft guys. You know what airsoft is?
Yeah, yeah, the
It's
the
not
rifles.
paintballs. Yeah. And we had a franchise approach us and say, hey, look, could we possibly rent space here? So this is the second time they got coming out. They had over 52 people in the jail, and had a big shoot 'em up for 5 hours. They loved it. And even then, Miranda, I had 2 young ladies come up during a break, and they said, we wanted to let you know we were hiding in the jail cell, going to ambush some folks when they were coming by. And my girlfriend said, are you crying? And she goes, no, I thought that was you. But she says they turned around and they heard crying from behind them in their cell, whether it was a little cell they were in. So they spooked and left. And we had one of the guys, he was their referee, army guy, stout guy, no nonsense. That shadow guy that you know about in the back was really messing with him. He said, man, I'm getting the creeps in here. And I said, yeah, it does that to some people. And he says, no, seriously, I feel like somebody's standing behind me when I'm in the back rooms watching these guys. And he came out after a break and goes, somebody was watching me, David. He says, I was standing there and I was looking down the hallway. You try to avoid getting shot. And I'm just looking to see the game. And I see somebody go behind me. And I thought it was one of the players that snuck up behind me. And I was going, what is he doing here? There's no players in here. So he turns around. There's nobody there. He said, but it was a guy my height. He's 6 foot. And he says, it was a guy my height. But I noticed it was just a shadow of a guy, but it was a full shadow, a 3D shadow. I said, that's the guy that lives back there. And so the guy takes a break and goes to the bathroom up front. 2 other guys in there. He goes in, he's using the restroom. Those other 2 guys leave. He says, as soon as they closed the door, the light went off. Well, that's impossible. If you know our light systems there, I have a key for the light. It's not a light switch. So nobody can mess with them. They stay on 24/7. He said the light went off in the middle of what I'm doing. He says I about peed myself. He said so I had to. It's total black in there. I said, oh yeah, it's very dark. He says I had to feel my way down the wall until I could flip the switch, and there's nothing there. He goes, son of a. So he opens up the door to say, hey, somebody turn the light on, and the light turned on by itself.
Oh,
So
wow.
he went back again, and it just kept on with this poor guy. He's standing there, and he's wearing a pack. He felt somebody yank his pack hard twice, and spun around thinking it was a player, and was about to ream them. And said, David, there's nobody there. So they, even with all those people in that building shooting up, and they were using flashbang grenades, which, throw those pellets out. Plus, it's a bang and smoke, and even with all those people doing all those things in there, they were still getting activity. I was going to, I would think personally that the ghost would go, "Wow, this is way too much weirdness for us. We're out of here." But nope, they were right in the middle of it still. So
Well,
just odd.
um, Joe Shortridge has a comment here, which actually I was going to ask. So he says, "I wonder if the airsoft gun battle ramped up the activity. Have you all had any history of anything like riots or anything like that that could be similar that this could be a trigger for?"
I think he's dead on now that you mention it. Yes, we had a riot there, and the riot cops came in there, and that's what closed the jail. Is
Oh,
cell
okay.
block 4 got their cigarettes taken away. We've heard from both sides, the guys that have come back in and done tours that were in cell block 4, as well as jailers that have long since retired have come back and done tours. So they blame each other. But basically, the jailers say they took away the cigarettes because they were acting like fools. The inmates in there, it was very not a good place to be. Very, very overcrowded, and they were closing it anyway. It just they got closed quicker than they thought. They were waiting for the other jail to get built. So they plugged the inmates plugged all the drain holes and busted the sprinkler heads and started flooding their cell, and tipped over everything. Made a mess. So the as one of the inmates put it, he says the SWAT team arrived, and he says they didn't mess around. They started throwing canisters of gas into the cell, and he says I don't know what was in it, but he says I immediately, as soon as I smelled it, I went face down. I was immobilized, and I broke my nose in the fall laying in the concrete, but it already had 3 inches of water, and it was filling up fast. I was drowning in it in 3 inches of water. I couldn't turn my head. I was just paralyzed.
Wow.
So he says, I was about to pass out from that. And I felt somebody grab my feet, and they drugged me face first all the way out of the jail and into the paddy wagon, threw them in there, and they went off into the to other jail. But it's funny that Joe mentioned that, is that every time that we've had the police visit, um, or people in uniform, there's always a reaction. The police get spooked in the back, and I think I told you the story. The SWAT team did a training in there. They had about 30 guys in there, men and women, and then they had 2 working dogs. And when I called the lieutenant up, because I left the building, they were going to stay there late. He said, "Oh, my guys are a bunch of sissies. They kept hearing women talk to them in the jail." I said, "Okay, anything else?" And he goes, "Yeah, both sets of dogs refused to go and clear the women's section." He said, "When we gave them the command, they have a guy back there with his things on, and the dogs just love tearing." He says they love go. This is the big game for them. They both sat down. They refused to move. He says that's the first time that's ever happened. I said, "Wow." He said, "No, that's good. To experience them to these different things." He said, "But yeah, I got to admit, it's a little spooky back there." And I said, "Yeah, it's of the entire place, the women's section is got the most activity. If we had to round things off, but yeah, they seem to react. You remember Vicky?
Mhm.
Well, she started her career there. She was a jailer for the women, and the reason she started was because she said her girls, as she said it in the women's section, would scream sometimes that there's a man in their cells. They had a big area, open area with bunk beds. She go in there, and she says, "David, it's not like we turn the lights off. We never turn the lights off because it's a jail."
Mhm.
And she says, "Where is he?" Says, he was here. He was standing here. It was the shadow guy. And they'd hear him whispering at them at night. So it freaked them out. So that got her interest in this whole thing. But she was there a couple of times when she was the director of the jail before she retired on the other jail, coming in, to set her recorders and stuff. And she happened to be in uniform at lunch. She got some reactions from the shadow guy, take it out, I'm hiding, and just negative stuff, like they quit talking to her. They always were kind of chatty with her, just would
Mhm.
stop talking to her. So I think the uniforms, yeah, there's a not a good feeling there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so it just goes to show that jail was active way before it ended up being closed.
Yes. Well, and the 2 ladies, you find out things over time, and I've been there going on 5.5 years. I kept hearing 2 ladies there, 2 ladies there. I've heard ladies, 2 different voices. So I know that there was 2 ladies there, not counting the little girl. But I've never seen them. But other people have seen them. They all describe them as wearing brown dresses, long brown dresses.
Hmm.
The place next door to us is a bank building right now, and our farmers insurance is in the back. That's where I do our insurance. They told me that they used to see a brown lady, a lady dressed, a Hispanic lady dressed in brown dress, long brown dress. She walked through their walls one night when they were working. And that used to be a two-story morgue. It wasn't that building; it was torn down. But in the 1890s, a two-story wooden morgue stood there. They still hear wood
Wow.
footsteps upstairs when there's no upstairs. It's not that kind of building anymore. But anyway, we kind of put two and two together when we saw pictures of what was called in 1890 the Loretto's Christian Girls Academy, which was catty corner from us. All those people that are wearing there are wearing long brown dresses, and so somebody suggested that, well, were these ladies interned at the funeral home and just kind of walked over when this thing got demolished and this building got put up in 1937 as a new home, because by that time the Loretto's Academy was torn down as well. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, to put two and two together is the fact that they're wearing the same type dresses that everybody describes, long brown dresses, little black triangle right here. So that's who
Wow.
we think they are.
So any story on what happened there?
The Loretto's,
Mhm.
or yeah, it's kind of dark. This is from some locals that we talked to, some people born and bred here, some ladies, and they told me one time, "Do you know what went on at Loretto's?" And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It was a Christian girls' home." She goes, "Well, back then there was a lot of rumors floating around. As a matter of fact, Wells Fargo building, when they started that, which is a bank now, it was supposed to be a bigger bank. Well, they stopped construction, or they stopped them digging in a section because they started finding a lot of skeletons, baby skeletons,
Mm.
and it was a big stink back then. And I don't know what year this was. I wasn't here,
Yeah.
but early on, and she said everybody knew what was going on. The rumors there were, unfortunately, some of the priests were impregnating some of the students as well as some of the nuns, and they were hiding these bodies there
Wow.
underground and next to the Lorettos, which ended up being the Bank of the West, their grounds when they were digging. So they had to dig around some areas, and they stopped digging. Actually, the church put a lot of pressure on that. So I was going, wow, that's kind of bizarre. But yeah, that's a different, darker story.
Sure.
We've had our own stories here with a sheriff that was here in the 30s and 40s. He, not a lot of people know this, but Las Cruces was going to be the next Vegas before Vegas was even Vegas. The Chicago mob came down here and set up shop, and this is all documented. Anybody can read about this now. It's not a secret, but they came in, they bought the governorship. They paid off the state guys, the state troopers, the local governments, and one of the sheriffs was a enforcer for them, the sheriff of
Mhm.
Apodaca. And there's just a lot of bad stories on this guy, from taking people, and this is from people that have been there, that heard rumors, and this is rumors. They never saw him directly, but he would take people up there that owed money to the mobsters for whatever reason, and he would quote unquote interrogate them there, including breaking bones, up on the third
Wow.
floor. And we still hear screams from the third floor, men and women. And a lady was imprisoned up there, and as a juvie, and told us stories that she said, yeah, you hear the lady scream, and somebody would come and get them at night for entertainment purposes, and nobody stopped
Mm.
them. And then they would bring them back. So it was a lot of dark stuff going on.
Yeah, wow. Well, I know, D. Hoot asked, did any guards pass there?
Yes, I just found out that recently, this year. I was talking to a paranormal investigator. He has coffee every day with a former sheriff that's long since retired. So I asked him, gosh, the guy used to work here? And he said, yeah. And he said, well, ask him if anything happened. I was thinking paranormal.
Mhm.
And so he calls back and said, yeah. He said, I asked him. He said, well, he says his best friend died there of a heart attack. He was the guy that does
Mm.
processing. And it's off a room to that long hallway that you pictured there to the left. They take
Okay.
the prisoners in, take the clothes off, mark everything, give him the jumpsuit, and bring
Mhm.
back out. He said the officer went in to say hey to his friend during lunch. Yeah, it's that door right to the left.
Okay.
Um, and had a quick chit chat and then had to leave for work. So he's coming back out down the hallway. Hears his friend scream. He comes back in there. His friend's having a massive heart attack and he dies in his arms.
Oh,
We've gotten readings in there and a man saying something that I couldn't make out on the recording, just a man talking in there. They've had another inmate told us, he said, back when I was incarcerated here, he said, in the month of May, we had 4 fatal stabbings. He says, you had to watch your back. You couldn't sleep very well. He says, these people were shanking. There was a gang in there that was shanking, big fights and shanking at night. And he says, it wasn't safe even with the guards here. So you really had to watch your back. And so he said, yeah, there was a lot of freaky things when that happened. He said, there's blood all over the floors. And it was just, they had to clean them up with mops and stuff like that. So, little by little, I haven't done near the investigation you guys have done. And once again, hats off. It's just amazing. I brag about you guys all the
thank you.
time. So, holy cow, the work they put into that place. But I haven't
Thank you
done near
very
the investigation. And hopefully I'll get somebody to come along and say, do you want to do that investigation? Because there's a lot there that we don't know. We're hearing this as people come in and go, I used to work here and here's my story, kind of thing. And so I said, okay, we take note of that. But, you got to document things because you don't want to say anything that's not true or
Mhm.
that's not at least verifiable. So
Yeah.
we gotta watch that.
So when, Ghost Adventures and some of the, larger shows came to investigate there, was the jail well, obviously, it was closed, but, did it have a lot of paranormal claims at that point whenever they came, or did they just come to, kinda check it out and see what they could find there?
Well, Ghost Adventures, Zach, one of the paranormal guys I was telling you about, his name's Pat. I call him
Mhm.
Paranormal Pat. Um, he's he's one of those gadget guys. I mean, he must have $30,000-$40,000 worth of equipment. He has not just night vision cameras, he has night vision, thermal imaging, military grade, goggles that he uses, and he's that kind of caliber. So he's the one that caught his
Gotcha.
team caught a that shadow man up on the 3rd floor that stays in what they called, and this is on the plans. This is not a name we made up. It's
Mhm.
it's called insane rooms. There was 2 rooms up, used to be the old federal holding cells up on the 3rd floor, and
Okay.
that's the way the plans say that they are. So that's the names they had for them. Not that they housed in 37 insane people, but it was just people that had mental issues or that had really aggressive tendencies. They would keep them separate. But that's the rooms. That's how it was on the plans. So anyway,
Mhm.
one night they're in there about 2 in the morning. They had a new guy with them. His first rule, which we enforce all the time, is don't antagonize. You don't know what you're antagonizing and what the percussions from that are going to be. Well,
Mhm.
they hear this guy, and they're standing out in the main room. They hear him saying, "You're yellow belly, you're chicken, you're afraid to show yourself." He lets out a yell, comes out, and said, "Something hit me." And so they check. They have live cameras there, and night vision shows up green, but he's got a long
Wow.
scratch. It started bleeding from his hairline down to below his collar. And Pat got upset, of course, and said, "Get out! You're done here. I told you, don't do that." The guy went outside, threw up. 2 days later, he calls Pat up and says, "Pat, I think something followed me home." And he says, "How do you know that?" He said, "I keep hearing sounds like boots walking on wood floors in front of my bed, but I have carpet." And he says, "I hear a voice waking me up, a gruff voice, but I don't understand what they're saying." And I just saw a big orb coming out of my closet. It took 3 days for that to, I don't know what you call it, fade away or for him to leave. But more than one person has seen the shadow man up there, and they describe him as a tall, slender guy, all dark with red eyes. And I've had probably 6 people see him. Now, I've never seen him upstairs, and he never leaves that room. We've never had one instance in 5.5 years of him actually leaving that room. It's a little closet. It looks like a closet during the day. So that's why they sent that. And then a door had closed on them, a jail door that was chain driven, which does not close. And it makes a big clanky noise when you are closing it. It closed on them. They were standing right in front of it, and the camera caught it, but they never caught it. So they sent that film to Zach, and that's why they came out. And the same thing happened to Zach. He was so upset because they missed the shot. The camera that they had
Oh,
that they had used, that Zach's cameraman said he had just charged the batteries, 48 hours, brand new batteries, deader than a doornail when they started filming. It happens to us all the time, happens to the film crews as well. But Zach got on him and said, go out and get another one. Well, the guy put his camera down, went out to the truck to get another one, couldn't go through the same door they just went through because it had closed. And Steve Newby, he's the architect that's a partner in the building. um, he's a big fan, so he'd ask, can I hang out and see this? And they said, as long as you stay well out of the shot. So he's well out of the shot, watching this entire thing happen. This was in cell block 2. And he said, David, I was staring at, because Zach was so outrageous, he kind of rude to his guys. He was yelling at them and things, and upset that they missed the shot, or the battery went dead. He says, I never saw the door close either, but the guy couldn't even get out of the door. He had to go around the other way. And so he said, the one shot we're down here to get. And so, yeah, he was a little upset about the whole thing. But that being said, then Colin came down. He does the YouTube thing. I think he's got like 700,000 or 800,000 followers. And he was in El Paso doing a shoot. And the radio station said, have you been up to Las Cruces? They have a courthouse up there that's, you need to check out. So he called one of the people that we use, PRI, and PRI set it up, Romero, and they came out and did their thing. A 2-hour video. I haven't watched it yet because that's a little long for me. But
yeah.
I was going, that's a damn movie. That's not a video pod. So
That's
anyway,
a long night or a long video
yeah,
to put together.
they
And
were there pretty late.
I'm just kind of
But,
scrolling through some photos here as you're talking, and so if we hit on something, I was trying to think if I had a picture of that closet, but I'm not sure if I did.
this is all
Did it?
down in the jail cell. That's cell block
Okay.
2, looks like.
And
Yeah.
how many how many inmates was the jail built to hold?
I think it was close to 200, but from what the guards were saying back then, and some of the prisoners, they had
Hmm.
people sleeping in between the bunks on mattresses. It was so overcrowded, and
Wow.
that's why a lot of fights happened. A lot of territorial things happened. And people were stepping all over you. It was not a good place to be. They only had 1 hour exercise a day, and you were out in the courtyard area. It's not the biggest courtyard area, so they just walked in circles. So there's a lot of pent up stuff going on out there. Very dark cells, as you can see. That's cell block 2. Um,
Okay.
One of the things, back to the
Oh.
ladies, that I remembered is we got a recording that somebody got of her in there, and they said, I don't speak Spanish, and she's speaking Spanish. And I go, okay, I'll give it to somebody. So I gave it to somebody that speaks Spanish, and she goes, David, that's not Spanish, that's Latin. And she says, I barely speak Latin, but I can understand Latin. Some of the words are Latin because I was Catholic, and we had to learn that. Well, the Loretto's Christian Academy, part of their curriculum is they taught Latin there. They had to learn Latin. So that was another tie-in to those guys without being a tie-in. So I still have yet
Hmm.
to give that tape to somebody that speaks Latin to say, what is she saying? Because um, she says like a sentence, and I just thought it was Spanish, but it's Latin.
Wow, that's incredible. I know just the feel inside there. I definitely want to come back and spend some more time in there. Just I don't know, just being down there. I mean, it almost felt crowded. I mean, you felt like there were people kind of just in there. I mean, you definitely didn't feel alone whenever you were there.
Well, one thing we've noticed, and I'm not an investigator like you guys are. I don't do any of that, but this is just observations. Is we always ask now, or I always ask groups of people coming in here, especially doing the private tours, is anybody sensitive here? And they always
Mhm.
ask, what do you mean sensitive? And I said, well, have you or your family ever heard or seen anything that you couldn't explain of paranormal sense? Usually there's one person in there. My
Mhm.
grandmother used to see ghosts, or our last house was haunted, that kind of thing. We watch those folks because 10 times out of 10 times, those are the folks that their K2s go off, their K2 meters go off. They get sensations of, sometimes physical, they get ill, they get nauseous, they get a headache, their nose might bleed, they feel like they're getting touched, or pressure, or even very sense of sadness overcomes them. And but almost always it's the sensitive folks. So somebody like you, and I tell them the way I see it or envision it is you walk into a room full of people and everybody ignores you except for this person in the corner is looking right at you and seems to acknowledge you when you move. You're going to want to go hang with them and see who they are and see if you can strike up a conversation. So I think those sensitive people, these folks here that are still in the building, sense that somehow and sense that they can see them or hear them. It seems to, especially that little girl, if she tugs on people. And one lady that was in there had a really hot flash right up against her thigh, and when she stepped out into the courtyard, and she said, "David, it was cold, and yet my thigh felt like somebody was putting a branding iron right next to it. It was really hot, and I tried to move away, and it went away, but then it came right back up against my thigh, like somebody moved back up against me again, trying to get my attention." She said, "That's the feeling I got. Somebody was trying to let them hugging me or something." I said, "Was it down low
Mhm.
or up high?" And she says, "Down low, my lower thigh." I said, "Oh, interesting." So things like that happen there. We tell everybody if they're getting nauseous or something, we just move out of the room, and hopefully
Mhm.
they don't follow you. That's the only thing I can say, other than I know to tell them, tell them you don't have permission to touch me. You don't have permission to, mess with my things and things like that. But
Yeah, and that's the thing too, the courtyard there was fascinating to me as well. I mean, um, it it just had its own feel about it that, the vibe there, I mean, it just felt, um, I don't know, there was something eerie about the courtyard.
we've had some interesting things go, and that's one of the hot spots, or I would call a hot spot. Is where that tree was that you just pictured there. We had
Oh,
3 ladies in there doing a session. This is pre-COVID. We used to mix the smaller groups to get a group of 4. They came in, there was only 3 of them. I said, "Yeah, fine." They didn't know each other. Give them K2 meters. They're sitting in there. Their meters are going off, or at least 2 of them, they're sitting on this side. There's a lady sitting over on that bench right next to that tree. And
mhm,
these 2 ladies on this side, looking that way, said that they were trying to do a session. And because their K2 meters were just redlining, but they kept hearing this lady talk, and she's looking down, and they thought she was talking to her phone. They were thinking, how rude. So she said, finally, one of the ladies said, "Excuse me, ma'am, we're trying to do a session. Can you not talk on your phone?" And she looks up at him. She goes, "I'm not talking." So she goes, "Yeah, that's your phone." She goes, "That's not my phone." She holds up her K2 meter. It's redlining. So they all 3 get quiet. And right where that tree is right there, they all 3 heard a lady. They have a disagreement on what she was saying. She's either saying the rosary or she was chanting. They couldn't make it out. But the catty corner of that, we had 2 ladies walking through, a part of a group. They were the last 2 walking through, and of course, I heard them screaming. They said that there was a lady over here. She was in a white gown, barefoot. Yeah, just on the other side, the right side of that thing, but um,
okay.
huddled up with her knees, holding her knees and her hair in her
Mhm.
down on her face, crying. So they knew she wasn't real. She wasn't dressed right, but she said she was solid enough. She looked real, but her crying was real. So they ran out of there.
Wow, and so she didn't even really act like she was aware that or
No,
didn't know that she was aware the others were around.
no, and I'm glad you brought that up. Most of these folks that I've been telling you about, they're very aware of what they're doing. They interact, and yet there's things like that, or a person walking through the hallways that doesn't react. And it's just like a recording or something, just a playback. And I guess sensitive people can see that, and some people can't. But no, I've all of my illusions about it being outside noise and the building settling, although it's solid concrete in 1937, it's not settling anymore. Um, After hearing my name called out by a man closing the jail doors one night and then closing the main doors to the place, a woman calling my name from upstairs, the little girl saying, "Can you see me?" standing right next to me in the middle of the day, and I couldn't. But I don't answer them like you guys do, and then I don't whip out the recorders and say, "Let's have a conversation." I don't interact at all, and it's just because I have to be there, and they already obviously know who I am, and so I'd like to keep it kind of that way because I've got to work in the building, and I just don't like the surprises when they come up, and so I don't go in the building anymore by myself. And it's not. I know they can't do anything to me. I don't like that startleness. I don't like the footsteps starting up behind me and following me to the door and then getting in my personal space. And even I know that, there's nothing they can do to me. It's just, it freaks you out.
Mhm.
You can't control your hair standing up on you and that icy feeling you get. And, other than telling them back away, get away from me, and hope they do. Yeah, that's unsettling. I don't like that. So,
It's crazy how just your body reacts even when even if you're not afraid. I mean, just the physiological reactions of, you know, hearing the disembodied voices, seeing the things that just aren't quite right, either the shadow figures or the figures manifesting. It's always interesting to me because you don't have to be scared to get the cold chills and to have the
mhm.
hair
When I was chasing that,
naturally reacts that way.
oh, absolutely, because it doesn't. If somebody else comes up behind me, a total stranger, I don't get the cold chills going and my hair stand up on end. Doesn't happen. And just with their type of
Mhm.
energy, whatever that is, and so that's something for you guys to tell us. What is that? Why does your body react to that from them? But same thing happened. I think I told you the story. Um, I kept hearing the jail door slam. And these are 300-pound doors. They don't just slam. And I'd always grab a flashlight, run this middle of the day, run down the hallways, open up the jail, do a fast walk through the jail, because I was thinking, okay, we had homeless issues before. We had about a dozen of them sleeping around the building when we first got the building. And I just assumed somebody broke in. And there was never everybody in there. And I was going, what the hell is slamming those doors? It never dawned on me until two things happened at the same day. Heard the jail door slam. I go, son of a, I'm going to go find out what this is. I don't do this anymore. They can slam them till they knock them off the hinges. I'm not going back there. But I would fast walk back there, open up the door, just doing the flashlight left and right as I'm going. I was thinking it's got to be that very back door. It maybe looked locked, but maybe they jiggled it open or busted the lock, and it looks dummy. And it's got to be where they're coming in. So I pass a hallway and I happen to look up, and there's a guy standing at the end of the hallway in front of one of the jail cells. He's got his legs spread, which is kind of weird, and his arms down to his side. He's about 6 tall, slender kind of guy. And I stop and I look back, and before I could raise the flashlight at him, he sidesteps, which is weird. He didn't turn around and walk in the jail. He sidesteps into the jail cell, and I go, I got you, man, because it's a dead end. So I go running down there, flashlights raised. I was going to beam this guy as soon as I turned the corner, I figured he's going to be standing there trying to do something. And it's like when I ran in that cell, which was empty, it's like I ran through a dang refrigerator. My hair immediately stood. I think I ran through the guy, and I think he just did it for shits and giggles,
Probably.
just to get a rise out of me. And so I just turned around and walked out, fast walked. But that wasn't the end. He had to do one more little thing, and I know it was him. I'm closing the jail doors, and they have two little glass windows. So I'm, of course, looking to see if he was following me or something, which he wasn't. But I see the third door on the right just swing, this long, slow swing and slam shut in front of me, which I just walked past, and there was nobody
Mm.
there. So I said, okay, you guys can do that all day long. That's it. I'm not coming back here. So I don't anymore. And since then, I've heard him slam about 3 more times, and I just, whatever, knock yourself out. So,
Well, that was gonna be my other question because they seem quite intelligent and aware, and so I was wondering if the fact that they know you hear them and you don't react, if that seems to bring on more reaction.
oh, now guilt me now. Okay. I'm still not going to talk to him. I mean, everybody else goes in there are folks like you, the paranormal investigators and stuff, and they're just chatty Cathys to these guys. And they do get responses. The meters go off, the trigger objects go off, and all of that. And I go, more power to you guys, but that's just not me. And I had a dark experience once, and I have my guard up on that. And
Yeah.
these are not demonic, or I'd shut it down. I wouldn't have one soul in that building. But they're not. I feel that,
Mhm.
and I could honestly say that I feel that nobody in there is demonic.
Mhm.
Troubled, lost, yeah, mean spirited, yeah, but not demonic. There's just not that feeling there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can't get past that, is letting my guard down. And I was on the fence with that little girl for the longest time, because I've heard too many paranormal investigators say sometimes they're not little girls or little boys. They're a darker entity pretending to be that, to get you to converse with them. Now you're given a permission to go this back and forth thing. And I said, well, that's all I need to know there. So I don't talk to any of them. And yeah, maybe I'd get better responses, or that kind of thing. That's not something I'm really interested in doing at this point in time.
And I totally respect that because, it's all about your personal feeling on it and,
Mm.
what you are comfortable opening up to. And, Dr. Sumner makes a good point here, and this is something that we always say when, because we're the same way, we're in a jail, they're inmates, and so, more than likely, they're just mean, maybe more aggressive, that sort of thing, and just wanting to be heard. We've never had, anything that would ever lead us to believe that it's anything malignant or, you know, um, as far as like a demonic entity. Um, mean, yes, especially there on the second floor. We do have some that kind of want to be a little more intimidating, but especially if you've had a negative experience, I can totally respect not wanting to converse with those.
Well, back then I was open. I was open like you guys, and I was studying stuff I probably shouldn't have been studying and trying things I shouldn't have been trying. And I had no clue about doors opening and closing. And some of them you can't close as easy as you can open them. And I
Mhm.
learned the hard way. And something came through and um, just terrified my soul. Not just getting scared. I've never been scared like that. Your soul's scared, and that you're scared, and it
Yeah.
knows it's life and death. Um, And so, yeah, I was going, holy cow. So I was extremely apprehensive when I first got in the building and I first heard two men having a conversation walking down the hallway. I was going, oh no, not here. But I'd heard stories like you hear, oh, that building's got activity. And it's going, oh, crap. So then one of the other observations is every now and then it would happen until we started switching on the power and then we got the
Mhm.
water work. And then it's steady now. Once we got some juice going into the building and some running water, I noticed there was a very big uptick. So I can imagine when this thing's going to be converted into a 4-star hotel and conference center, what the heck's going to happen there? Because it's going to be full of juice and power. And right now, as you well know, we don't have HVAC. You guys are
Yeah.
blessed to have air conditioning in the building, um, and we have power maybe a third of the building, and we have water just up in the bathrooms up front in that 37,000 square feet building. So um, even then, it was enough to really have them have. I guess if that's what the energy they use, it was the energy they needed because it's almost a daily thing. Um, and I tell everybody, these guys don't perform on cue, or
Mhm.
I would be wealthy.
Right?
Because um, I would sell more tickets. But they do their own thing, day or night, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who's here. But I do think it matters the type of people that are there as far as they're sensitive or not, because they do want to come out. From what I've seen, the shadow guys are being rude to everybody, but it's the ladies and the little girls. It seems like they want to interact, to have an interaction. And
Mhm.
so that's what I've noticed.
Very cool. And so, have they started any construction on turning that into a four-star hotel yet?
No, they just got the final investor. It's an $86 billion build out. They're going to tear down the jail, the
Wow.
1969 jail. They're going to keep the courthouse because it's on the historic list,
Mhm.
society list. They're going to build a 3-story tower with 57 rooms connected by breezeways to the hotel, which is the conference center, excuse me, which is the courthouse now. It'll be a series of high end shops, and we're going to be in there as the tour operator, taking people out on adventure tours. And that's why I'm in the building. They asked us to be the tour operator, but um, they'll renovate the courthouse and tear down the jail. So in the footprint
Okay.
of the jail is going to be a 3-story tower with a bunch of rooms in it, and that's
Wow.
about 2 years off, maybe three, because it's a honest historic society. Every window they replace, everything they do to this building, is got to go through the approval process of the historic society in Santa Fe.
Wow, and I'm sure that's probably a long process in and of itself.
And this building is solid steel and concrete. It was putting America's back to work, the WPA thing,
Mhm.
back with was it Eisenhower, and it uh, it was built for. They put out contracts back then to put as many Americans back to work and to build the most labor intensive type buildings. So that's why the parks got involved building all their stuff. And this building was built along the same line, steel and concrete,
Mhm.
stucco veneer, but steel bricking. and poured concrete, and the concrete's like 10,000 psi. It's very, very hard
Wow.
concrete. So, like the architect said, it's got good bones. It's only got 2 superficial cracks in the entire building, and
Wow.
plus it has a basement.
And I think one of the things I was most impressed about it was, I mean, we were there in the evening, kind of around the golden hour where the sun was setting and everything. And you still, unless you were just in that top level, I mean, it was dark and you felt like you were, deep inside something, just because of how dark it was.
Yeah, everybody thinks the jail that they go through is in the basement. They said this is the lower level. I said, no, this is first floor still. It's just dark. You can't see
Wow.
the jail annex from here. This is just the courtyard or courthouse you're seeing. The jail annex is where that big tall tree is in the back. That's where it's
Okay.
attached.
And as Dr. Sumner said, so anyone who wants to investigate this place needs to get out to New Mexico ASAP.
Yeah, and we can just work you around the movie schedules here. This is the other claim to fame now this place has. Used to they had a federal prison up in near Santa Fe. That was the big movie shoot thing because it was huge and it was empty. And they just closed that down to film. So this is the only jail um, situation in all of New Mexico that they can film. So yeah, we've had our doors knocked on continuously. Now
Wow.
there's Film Las Cruces here, and they're actively promoting the place for a shooting site, a
Wow,
film site.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, for we're charging them, of course, to get in the building and stuff. So
Mhm.
it but I've got to go now a whole month without any kind of tours whatsoever. That's the old third floor federal area. There was sales there that was divided up into cells, 3 groups of men in a kitchen in there, and then the other side was the women and the juvies.
Okay, wow. Yeah, and I can see where that would be that would really kind of be a challenge just because, having to, I mean, because you pretty much book out, tours, I mean, I guess what, anytime anyone is, you'll do investigations if you don't have,
We'll do what we do is we do 2 different types of private tours for 4 people or more.
okay.
We do a haunted history tour, which is a guided tour. I take them through with lanterns, or they can do the full immersion paranormal investigation. That's what we show them how to use the equipment. They got the K2 meters and the radios because we do not go with them. They got maps of the building. They have night vision cameras, which they get a memory stick out of that when they're done, and a
Mhm.
spirit box and a couple of trigger items, and they're on their own for 2 hours, so they can go anywhere there's a door that opens. So we kind of try to steer them as to the hot spots that we know, so they're not just wandering around in the sheriff's area for 2 hours, kind of because you can get lost in the place.
Sure.
And kind of just direct them that way. But they need batteries charged or recharged or rechanged. We switch them out by the radio, kind of thing. They're on their own, and get a taste of. It's one thing being led, as you well know,
Yeah.
leading the group through, and they just follow you, and and that's great. It's another thing when you're in a building and it's dark and you don't know which way to go, and you're looking at a map, and all the corridors are dark, and all the hallways are dark, and the rooms are dark. It's like, oh shoot. Yeah, it starts closing in. So I
Yeah.
think they like that.
I
Um,
think I'm looking here to see because I think I had taken a picture of the map, because you all had one down there on the door. I may not have that. No, I don't have that posted in here. Um, I can definitely see where people would get lost in there.
it is. It has 3 staircases, front, back, and center, and they lead different areas as well. And then, if they stumble into the sheriff's area, that's not counted in that square footage. That's another section, which does have activity. If my partner was welding on a window, got his pants jerked twice, and somebody saying "Hey, hey" to him, and he took off his mask, his welder's mask, thinking it was me, wasn't. We've had somebody had a thermal imaging in there and caught 3 of those stick figures standing there in an area in the sheriff's area. And when I said I want to get a picture of them, so I raised up to take a picture, they actually left the room into different rooms. I go, what the heck? But they had the guys that had this FLIR camera system. It's a $45,000 camera system. They use it to detect gas leaks on oil pipelines. So they
Okay.
called me up and said, "Hey, Dave, can we try out this system?" And I said, "Yeah, bring it out." So I want to get one of those. I just don't want to pay $45,000 for it. That's
Right?
ridiculous. They said, no, we put this on drones, big drones, and they fly over the pipelines. So, but it caught it. It's just amazing. You just walked in 15 minutes. There's 3 people standing there, where I always feel creepy. Always, always, always when I walk through there. And I go, I just don't like this section of the sheriff's area. And 3 people are standing there, 2 on a counter and 1 standing up against the wall. So I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, and when I first met Vicky, I had her on the show, and she showed me some of the different videos from when they were in there investigating, and the courthouse is quite active as well. Or I
Mhm.
guess it's the main courtroom, right?
Courtroom's active. The across the street or across the hallway from the courtroom is the original judge's chamber or office. It's paneled, and we've had probably half a dozen people over the last 5 years see a apparition of a judge, a full-bodied apparition. And I think I told you the story. Maybe I didn't because this happened this last year. Even a homeless guy. I was out mowing the yard, the grass out, the weeds out there, and homeless guy walks up, middle of summer, sweating, trying to get the mower started again. He walks up out of the corner of my eye, see him. He goes, "Hey, mister, you know there's ghosts in that building." I said, Yeah, I know. And he goes, there's a man that always stares out the windows. And that caught my interest. And I go, which window? Because you saw the building, it's got a bunch of windows. If he had pointed to any other window, I would have brushed that off. He points to the in window where that office is, where people have seen him. And then he described him like everybody described him from a distance. He said he was a gringo, white guy. He had a handlebar mustache, or excuse me, he called it a Fu Manchu
Mhm.
mustache. Everybody else calls it a handlebar mustache, a beard, and a white shirt. Um, and I said, "Was he looking at you?" He says, "No, he was staring down that way, down the street," which everybody says that see him staring down the street. I said, "Okay, thank you, man. I appreciate that." And he turns to go and says, "Hey, mister, there's women ghosts in there too." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" And he goes, um, "Because when I'm over, uh, I stay over in these bushes over here, but I come and pee in your bushes at night." I said, "Man, don't do that." He said, "Oh, I'm not gonna do that anymore." He said, "Well, when I do, when I'm peeing in your bushes, I'm looking through the windows because there's a window right there." And he says, "I've seen him twice." I said, "Who?" He says, "2 ladies walking down the hallway." I said, "At night?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "What do they look like?" So he describes them just like everybody that has seen them. I have not seen them, don't want to, but um, he's described them as one was Anglo, one was Hispanic, had long black hair. And I said, "Do you remember what they were wearing?" He says, "Oh, yeah, long brown dresses." So
Mm.
there's that brown dress thing again. I said, did they look at you? He says, "No, they just walked past. They were walking down the hallway together." I says, "Okay, please don't pee in my bushes anymore." So anyway, he left. So yeah, out of somebody, either he's very sensitive or, but when we first got there, when I had my insurance, this is even before I knew a lot about the building. My insurance people were saying, and before we got invited to stay there, I didn't know who owned it. I driven and passed it like everybody else a million times. Thought it was a cool old building. And she goes, "Oh, that building over there, it's free. It freaks us out." And I go, "Why is that?" And she goes, "Oh, it's haunted." I said, "Well, how do you know it's haunted?" She goes, "Well, we've seen. There's nobody in the building. It was closed, locked down." And she says, "We've seen the lights come on and light up the entire 3rd floor." And I said, "Wow, that's weird." But that's before I realized the breakers were off on the entire building when I got in. I had to flip the main breakers just to get the lights on. There is no lights on the 3rd floor anyway. There's no light bulbs up on the 3rd floor to light. There's no power there. And so when I went back to them, I told them, what you told me is impossible. I had to flip the main breakers to get power on, and there's still no power on that 3rd floor to light it up." She goes, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. We just saw the 3rd floor was lit up." And then they would see, we've heard about 3 times now, including them, people would see a man that resembled, bearded man, smoking a cigarette on the judge's balcony, which is on the 3rd to 4th floor. It was a private balcony made in the plans. It's called the judge's smoking balcony. And it has I don't know if I took you guys up there, it has a screen down below and glass up top.
Yes.
So you
Uh-huh.
can't flick cigarettes off. It used to be a chair and a table there. Now we use it to hold the door closed. But anyway, different people have saw it. Well, she said several times, she was telling me, eyewitness, when I came out at night to my car in the wintertime, there's a man up there. And she goes, the building's dark, but I can see there's a silhouette of a man up there on there, and it would freak me out. I just go to my door and close the doors and leave. But so they were seeing things even when the building was totally empty and there was nobody in there. But I thought that was interesting when they said the third floor would light up. That's impossible. You know, it's like you taking all your electricity out of your building and somebody says your building's lit up. It's like, no, not really. But I guess they saw what they saw, you know.
Hmm.
So even then
Yeah.
they had enough energy to do something. Um,
Yeah. I wonder if it was the actual or is there any type of light fixtures or anything there? I know you said there's no power to it. Was there any type of fixtures, or could this be actually the illumination of the spirit themselves?
could be because there's no fixtures in that. You saw that room. It's a big empty room. There's no fixtures in that room.
Okay.
At all in there to light. I said, were all the windows or just one? She says, all the windows were lit up. The whole third floor was lit up. And I go,
Wow.
I said, the only thing I can think of, somebody broke in there, brought up a generator or something and turned it on and had lights up there. She goes,
Mhm.
David, this was at night when we were leaving work. There was nobody in the parking lot. The parking lot was empty. She said, we just put it down to the ghosts. I said, well, maybe. So,
Yeah.
um, but I had heard stories like that off and on, seeing lights move from one room to another. We've heard a lot of.
Mhm.
And I just assumed this is after we got in the building. I was thinking, well, maybe people are thinking that's us, or maybe that's us. And
Yeah.
people, you always look for the rational decision or rational answer. And but I always ask, even the cops, the sheriffs have had instances, run-ins where they came up to. We had some attempted break-ins, glass breaking. We had bars welded on the windows, and so one of the cops who were coming in as a team, and they told us this a couple days afterwards. He said, David, we parked our cruiser out in front. It was about 2 a.m, and we decided to walk around the building. And so me and my partner walked around the building. As we got to where your courtyard is, there's a big flagpole in there. He
Mhm.
said, we heard it sounded like there was like 20, 30 guys all talking on your first floor right inside the door there. And they were moving heavy furniture like they were like nothing on wheels. They were like scraping crates or something on the ground. It made a large noise, like big furniture being moved. And they both looked at each other and they thought it was our night crew. And they said, well, let's at least let them know we're here. So he says, we opened up your gate. We
Mhm.
walked over. He says, only then afterwards, reflecting, everything stopped once we opened your gate. But we didn't realize it at the time. We walk up. The building's dark. He says they have the big lights. So they lit up that hallway. It's a little short hallway. So I couldn't see nothing. So I'm tapping on the glass and I'm looking closer. And his partner says, hit harder. Maybe they can hear you. So he's tapping with his flashlight. And he says, I have my face up to the glass. He said, out of nowhere, this pebble comes flying and hits the glass so hard, I thought it cracked the glass. And he says, it was right at my forehead. I mean, right in the middle of my forehead. And he says, nobody threw that thing. They couldn't have. We would have lit them up. And I said, what'd you guys do? He said, well, we left. He says, there was nobody to throw that. He says, the building was dark. After we looked, we go, wait a minute. There's no sound. There's no nothing. It's dark. Let's get out of here. So they told me a couple of days after that, which I
Ah.
thought was kind of funny. But I don't know if that was just a memory, going on, or
Mhm.
they were just messing with these guys,
Mhm.
and did all of that. But that's a lot of energy.
It
I always
it
translate
is.
energy, and it's gone. Where did he get that? Because we've had things unplugged,
Mhm.
totally unplugged, where we've plugged them in, doing a movie, and come back in, and all the extension cords are unplugged from the equipment, and we'd have to plug everything back in. And so I always think of energy. I was thinking, man, if they got some energy tonight to be doing this kind of nonsense and
Mhm.
just messing with you, you know, nothing major, but just enough to be annoying
Yeah.
when you're trying to get something done, So I have a feeling when this thing gets to be a hotel, oh my gosh, I wouldn't stay on that first floor to save my life, but I think it's going to be very interesting what goes on in that building after they get its full power and everything's running. It
I
just
think so too.
it's going to be
Um,
different.
yeah, and, just if it, works out like I would imagine as a hotel, turning from a jail, um, you know, I think people are gonna be not surprised, but I mean, I think it's gonna be such a huge change, for the resident spirits that are living there, and then also the guests that come that, I don't know, I don't know, I just think it's gonna be a lot of activity, just because it is gonna be such a different, change from what it originally was.
Well, I hope they don't act out. I mean, it's yeah, this has got to be actually the footprint of the hotel right there. Is that entire building there? And
Wow.
it's going to be, I can't imagine, because there's just so much stuff going on. And there's sometimes, and I'm sure you felt this in your building, you can walk in and it's just quiet, it's peaceful, and it's almost like nothing happens there. And
Mhm.
I go, oh, this is nice. Okay. If it
Mhm.
was like this all the time, I wouldn't mind coming in during the day and getting some stuff done. I don't do that anymore. I always come in with somebody else, because other times you come in and you go, oh, crud. You can just feel it different. The jail always feels that way. It's just creepy. But um, I'm talking up front, when it's
Mhm.
sun's shining in and the birds are chirping outside. You can walk in there and go, oh, crud. I don't know how you can feel it, but it's like they're moving around or somebody's doing something in here, because you can feel them. The air's different. I don't know how to explain that, but
Mhm.
um, and other times it's just as quiet as a mouse. And
Yep. There's times we'll have our flashlight tours or our ghost hunts, and it'll be just so active, and then you'll come in the next day and it's like a totally different place, because you're kind of bracing yourself because it was so active the night before, and you come in there and it's just like, well, am I in the right place? It'd be so quiet. And, we're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and typically I'm down here in Cleveland on Thursdays, and Christy's working there at the jail by herself there on Thursdays. And so um she sends me a picture this morning, and it's like there were like three pictures that were off the wall on that second floor, and one of them was absolutely about 3.5 feet, 4 feet from where it originally was, flipped. We've had this happen on investigations we've had in this particular area, in this same picture, or not same picture, excuse me, the same floor. It was laying there the same way the picture was. And so you're sitting there and you're like, what happened while we were gone?
do you
Because
have
it
a
was
camera system up there?
we don't have one right there in that section, but we are definitely gonna put one in there because that's where we get a lot of shadow activity and a lot of stuff. So we didn't have it out there in the foyer of, the second floor, but I think we definitely need to because, yeah, I mean, it was just like something was going down this weekend. I don't know if they're drawing energy from the solar flares or whatever that's going on now, but kind of crazy. She sent pictures. She's like, it's just odd how it fell because we have pictures that have fallen because we're stone walls and concrete walls inside, so you can't always drill holes. So some of our pictures and stuff that we have up in there, we've got it up on Velcro, and the
Hmm.
Velcro it's glued to it. So I mean, it's pretty, and it's strips of it. And so for some of these items to fall the way they do, not fall straight down, but to fall and literally be, 3.5 feet, 4.5 feet away from where they fall, that's odd because we
Yeah, it
didn't
is.
have any type of, yeah, we didn't have any type of heat or anything like that going on. So we've definitely got to put a camera in that. Of course, who knows if we put a camera up there, it may not show up. But yeah, Christy is still on here, and she said, yeah, the last group that we had last week, Vicky, Nikki, and the Sheilas, they actually let us go on and investigate with them. Great activity, great evidence.
Well,
Um,
I've
so
never had a
yeah, it's
camera with
just
with in front of these doors, to these doors that lead to this jail area right here, the double doors. Um,
mhm.
but I was thinking, well, I've got an extra Wi-Fi. Let me stick it in there, alarm it off, and um, I was going, oh crud, and it was like 2 in the morning. So I check, and the door to that place is opening and closed. It did it 3 times, opened and closed, open and closed, open and closed. Go, what the hell? And it kind of freaking me out because I'm not used to seeing that. It's going, there's somebody playing with the dang door, and I can see there's nobody there. And I just thought that was bizarre, but I never would have caught that because I kept one of the other reasons I put the camera there was because I kept coming back to the jail and the door would be open and go, I know I closed that thing. And I go, I was the last one in. I know I closed it because I always close it.
Mhm.
It's a thing in case somebody breaks in and the door's open. I'll say, okay, it was closed. Somebody's been through here, kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And it was open 2 or 3 times in a row. And I go, I know damn well I closed that. And so when I put the camera up there, I forgot about it until the alarm went off. And sure enough, they're the ones messing with the dang door, not anybody else. So yeah, I'd stick a camera up there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
So
finding that, just from just reports in the different areas, and it's like the activity will change. The original areas that were super active whenever we first moved in there, they're still active, but they're not as active as, the drunk tank area, or, the second floor's just always been for myself, and I think too for Dr. Sumner, the second floor's always been a little bit darker, a little bit creepier, and a little bit more active, especially when it comes to, shadow figures, and then also, like, actually moving things and pulling things off the wall. So I think we've definitely gotta cover that area, but it's always interesting, and it's interesting that it showed up on your camera, because it always seems like sometimes once you put a camera up or once you come into an area, the activity, it just doesn't happen. So, kudos to you for capturing that, and hopefully we'll get something up there in that foyer where we can kinda capture the hallway where you see the shadow figures, but also kind of those doors if we can position it just right.
gosh, yeah. Wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Chris, but also let you guys know we've been doing these investigations in these places that I've told you about, the Rio Grande Theater and this and that, and captured some really cool stuff. I can send you that kind of stuff if you ever want to do
Yeah.
something where you have different activity out here, because there's voices, there's different things going on there. I was just at a store in Mesilla, and I didn't know the town of Mesilla. Those are older home or older stores out there. Well, this one has a basement, and I didn't
Hmm.
realize that. They were telling me, yeah, we hear footsteps on wood floors back here, like boots. Sometimes during the day, and we go back there, and there's nobody there. And she goes, "It's right above the basement." And I go, "You have a basement?" And she goes, "Yeah, you want to see?" And I go, "Heck yeah!" So we go down there, trap door, of course. You go down the basement, and it's what's weird about the basement. It has three windows that were blocked up a long time ago that at one time looked out into some open air, but it's underground now. I was going, wow, I didn't realize they built it up like that. But they still have the screens on them, and then some of the glass on
Wow.
it. And I go, that's cool. And then they have this little door that leads, I don't know where. And I said, where does that door lead? Have you ever tried to open it? She goes, no, I think it's from the other side. All on this side is wood planks, but she says the rumor is that it goes underneath the next building, that they have a basement, but they can't access it.
Ooh.
Says so. I said we got to come back here and do something. So anyway, I'm just taking shots of the basement. It was cool. Send that to PRI, and I forgot about him. He says, "Hey, did you check your photos?" And I says, "Other than taking them, I haven't even showed them to the persons yet." He goes, "Check that one photo." So I looked back on my camera. There's this guy in the window. Looks like he's Hispanic, 1920 suit, white shirt, black thin tie, yelling. He's got his mouth wide open. I don't know who he's yelling
Wow.
at, but I was going. I never saw. I looked right at that when I shot that shot and never saw it. And so another one I go into, and the lady is got a jewelry store. Sad story. Her sister passed away 3 months before, and she started seeing these. Her sister was a big bird lover. She painted birds and feathers. She said I started seeing feathers
Mm.
on my countertop or in my chair. And she says I'm the only one that works here. It opens up and closes. There's no birds getting in here. She says, I know that's from my sister. I said, well, that's so cool. And then she said, well, I've never showed this to anybody, but I want to show you. So she says it was from her camera, her night vision camera that she had in there. It overlooks your counter. And she says, I don't really use it at night. She says it's during the day if I'm gone, if somebody comes in, that I can see who came in, kind of thing. She said, but I'm looking at the camera because I couldn't sleep. And I thought it was an orb. It was a blue colored light that was shimmering near her counter. And I'm going to send this to you because it's really cool looking.
Mhm. Yeah, please do.
And so she says, I knew my security camera had screwed up. It wouldn't record that. So I got my camera and I took a picture of it. And then I took a closer picture of it. And she showed me those two things. And I'm not the one to believe in fairies, but it darn sure looks like a fairy. You can see it looks like a woman's frail body. You can see the legs, the torso, the head, the arms are out like this. And you see this gossamer type wing looking thing. And the whole thing's glowing. And then you see it as a more of a bright blue light when she pulls away. You can see it over the counter, so you can see how small it was. But it was about like this, maybe like this.
Mhm.
Um, I go, I'll be darned. I says, so what did it do? She says, well, I watched it. It just kind of hoovered there and then left. And I said, okay. Says, I think it's a fairy looking after me. She says, I believe in fairies. And I said,
Mhm.
"Well, maybe that's how it manifested to you then." But I
Mhm.
thought that was odd. They have a whole section there has a talking to the businesses, a little girl, little boy running through their places. They go in one wall out the other. They hear their voices sometimes, hear the giggling. But what used to be the old Billy the Kid saloon, which used to be the courthouse back in the
Mhm.
day, was also a school before the courthouse. And
Okay.
so, we're thinking, well, is that a tie in there? So interesting. It's I'm getting into this whole um, investigation thing because we're putting together this tour and people have stories to tell. Oh my gosh. It's like every building on that plaza has a story to tell as far as things they've papers being on the floor. This one lady, she says, well, this is kind of weird. I don't know if it's a ghost story, but it was annoying as hell until I told them to stop it, and they did. I said, what? She goes, well, when I break my quarters, I break them in my drawer, in my cash drawer. I'm the only one here. And I noticed when I started opening the cash drawer in the morning, the quarters were stacked, nice rows of
Oh.
stacks. And she goes, "What?" And so she messed them up again. Next morning, they were like, it went on for several weeks. And she goes, "Whoever's doing this, stop it. It's annoying." And she says it didn't do it again. So I don't know who was messing with her. I said, "Is somebody coming in to have keys?" She goes, "David, I'm the only one with the keys, and I'm the only one that opens up, and I'm damn sure the only one with keys to my register. There's no way they could have gotten in there." I said, "Well, it's interesting." So it's little tidbits like that make that I kind of look forward to going and talking to these people. Do I want to do an investigation there? Hell no, that's not me. I'll let PRI come in and do that. What you guys do. So
Getting the stories, though, that's a huge part of the fun, I think, is getting the stories, the experiences, the history. That's to me, that's as exciting as the investigating part.
well, yeah, I can do without the actual ghost though myself. That's just me speaking. But
So as far as people wanting to book these, are those other locations that you mentioned, are those I know you said that you're adding those to the tours. Are you adding those as investigation locations?
um, 1910 Schoolhouse is a tour. Rio Grande, because they don't want people down into the basements and they got cable and costume and stuff. We're doing a little bit different there. So that's basically a tour. Um, the schoolhouse is open to investigation if we tell them it's okay and we set it up like that.
Okay.
And but I wouldn't say that Rio Grande is. The Amador might be open for investigation since there's nobody there and we'll have control over it. The Amador Hotel, and of
Mhm.
course, the Messia shops are closed when we do this stuff. We are going back into two of the buildings that allowed us to come back in and actually do an investigation from what they showed us, including the guy screaming. Um,
Mhm.
so we'll let you know what goes on there. But when I say we, I
We
mean PRI is going in and do the investigation. Yeah,
Gotcha. And
yeah.
so for anyone that wants to take a tour, either do one of the ghost walks or do an investigation, is the Southwest Paranormal Adventures and the number at the bottom here in the website, is that the best way for people to reach out?
Absolutely. And once they get on the site, they're going to see a couple tabs. One's ghost tours; those are the private tours that they can book, and then group events. It's actually events 2022 is a tab. That's the different larger ghost tours that we do, inviting the public to come out and sign up for tickets. But the ones on the ghost tours, they can do a private. And there's also a little section there on the ghost tours where paranormal investigators, if they're coming in, they can rent more time because normally we just give 2 hours. They can rent 3, 4, 5 hour time slots if they want to in the
Okay.
building. And plus, we have discounts at one of the Marriott Hotel here for anybody coming in out of town that they've given us to give to them.
Perfect. Do you have, like, limits on numbers? I know you all are much larger than we are as far as, jail facility. For your tours, do you sell out tickets or I mean, it holds a pretty big capacity, correct?
Yes, we've we try to limit our group size to 50, maybe
Okay.
56, like this Saturday, because
Mhm.
we split those into two groups, and that's kind of it's getting on the upper end of being manageable for us because both groups go down with two guides, one in the front, one in the rear. They're candlelit tours, so they have their candles, and we do group shots and this and that. It's more because there's so much talking and people going down the
Yeah.
hallways. This is more of a fun thing. They watch a video up in the courtroom to let them know what's going on. Then we give them candles and they go down. But the investigations, it's up to them what size of group. If they
Okay.
want to bring a large team down and split them up, that's up to them. Um,
Okay.
we don't do it by person. It's just by time
Okay.
for
Okay,
them.
great. I know a lot of places do things different ways, and we always have to. We kind of have to limit our numbers because we are so much of a smaller facility. So, so yeah, definitely good to know. And any other big events or anything that you got coming up that?
Um, we're having got to have another paranormal workshop. That was a sellout. We had lunch, and then PRI came up with. He's got quite a bit of equipment, and he does not just talk about the equipment. He talks about the theory behind what you guys do, which is
Mhm.
very interesting. Some of the scientific principles that they apply. He's an engineer by trade, so he's very analytical when he goes through and does stuff. Goes through all of that, and then they have lunch, and then they have a 2 hour investigation after that. So it's 2 hour workshop, 2 hour investigation in the building by themselves with their instructors, so they get hands on. So we'll have another one of those, and then our group tours are pretty much once a month, except for the month of May. It looks like it's going to be movie month, and as soon as they're out of there, we'll start booking uh, tours again and investigations again, and then adding these other guys where we come across them. So yeah,
Wonderful.
that's it. But everything's listed on our website and on our Facebook.
Okay. And are you going to do a ball, another ball again this year?
Yeah, but not there because it was a bear getting all that stuff up the stairs on that second floor with no elevators. We got 2 elevators. We don't have a fireman's key. Anybody got a fireman's key that can gonna mail us? No, just kidding, because that's a fine. But so we one of our friends that was actually the bar person up there. She has Picacho Peak Brewery and has this gorgeous. It's bigger than the courtroom place that she has with a big huge yard outside. So we're going to do a gypsy village outside with all the actors and stuff like that, and we'll do the vampire ball in her place, and she provides the food and drink. We don't have to mess with that. So yeah, definitely that'll
Nice.
be in October. But yeah,
Well,
we'll
and
probably
look
run a
gorgeous.
zombie fest. Oh, thanks. We'll run a zombie festival through there again since the city started theirs back. They do a zombie walk. And they have about 3,000, 4,000 people come in. Everybody dresses as zombies and slow walks downtown. And so after they finish walking, we open up to do the zombie festival where we run them through the building, um, and have the paranormal type, just a button down version of what we do, but take them through. So those are really nice. They're really hectic, but we run about 2,500 people through on that 15 group people at a time. So we'll probably end up doing that this year.
Nice, nice. Well, so everyone definitely just keep an eye on the website, and if they have any questions, definitely reach out to you and
Yeah,
get
any
their dates
questions?
in for that.
Absolutely. And I'll send you. We're putting together some clips and stuff, so I'll send you those if you're interested in looking at them
Oh
on
yeah.
different things that have popped up here and there, and have you take a look at them through your eyes and see what you guys think, you and Chris. And
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I just love following you and seeing what all you are doing out there, and just proud to hear that, you all have expanded so much just since we talked a few months ago. So that's exciting stuff.
well, thanks, thank you. And you're in business like we are. It's like, okay, what are we doing, and how can we best do it and fine tune it and add things of value that people want to do. And I never want to get it to where it's. And I always tell our guys, these people are here for the first time. We've done it for the 100th time now, or whatever, even more. But it's their first time, so you know, go through the stories. I know you've
Yeah.
talk about them again. Go through the different odd spots in here that you had an
Mhm.
encounter, somebody had an encounter. It's old news to you, but it's not to them, and
Right.
and just to get people, especially in the groups, that's what gets me is when people in the groups have encounters in the building. Um,
Mhm.
it's like wow, and it's just the sensitive ones. It's the ones that seem to be attuned to this kind of stuff. Which thank the Lord I'm not sensitive because it just I don't know if I could handle the building. I'm dense enough so where a lot of that goes past me. So I'm
Not
fine
as
with it.
active as that building is. I mean, I couldn't imagine being in that building and then being sensitive as well.
Oh gosh, yeah.
No.
Well, other than the doors close, you can't ignore the doors closing or the footsteps, but or the touching. But other than that, it's I think I don't see them, which is fantastic with me, except that shadow guy that made sure I did see him. But I haven't seen the other ones, and I'm good with that. There's a guy who lives in the basement, very unruly, very rude, even to a median. And personally, I don't know your guys with medians and your if you've used them or this or that, and I've run across 3 or 4 here.
Mhm. We've had a couple
One that
come in.
okay, and quite honestly, I'm on the fence with some of the guys because you can almost say
Mhm.
anything, And so I always weigh it against what I've seen, felt, and heard in the building to
Yep.
line up. And I knew there was a guy in the basement because he came up and messed with me several times when I was down there. And I don't go there by myself anymore either. And so she went down and she says, she comes back up and she goes, I said, that was quick. She goes, well, went down, started down the hallway, and this older man comes running up down the hallway and start down there, and screams, get out and stay out. So she says, that was my cue. I just turned around and I didn't bother even talking to him. I left. And I go, huh. I said, that's the guy. Yeah, he was like that with me. He didn't say anything to me. He just got in my personal space and wouldn't leave. And that was unsettling. That's my first thing is going, okay, is there something more than just these guys here? Because I asked him to get away. He stepped right up to me. My hair went up. I was turning off a main main water supply, checking for leaks. Middle of the day, summer. And I said, get the hell, get the, whatever away from me. He did not move. He was still there. My hair was still up and in. And finally I said, in the name of Jesus, get away from me. Then he backed off and I go, oh, crud. Is that what it's going to, is that one of those guys that, a darker force, and that's the only thing that's going to move him? But going down there 2s and 3s, flipping on lights, he doesn't do anything. But the median saw him and said, he came screaming up at her, get out. And that's kind of the feeling I got. He didn't want anybody down there
Yeah.
for whatever reason. And why he's
Yeah.
there, I don't know. And that's what I ask everybody. Give me a first and last name. If you're chatty Cathy with these people, get a first and last name from them so we can figure out who these people are. And we've got first names. Little girls, Katie. She's even given her name, her age is 7 years old to somebody. 2 different times she said Katie to 2 different people. No last names though. So do you get last names when you guys, do they yell up their last name?
We have before. We've gotten a couple. What's interesting the last little bit is in the kitchen area. We kept getting the name Dan, and right after we got the name Dan, we got Chef Dan. And so, it's just interesting that we were in there in the kitchen, we got Chef Dan, and so, it was about a week later, and I said something to the group that was up there, and Christy was there with me, and I said, "Hey," I said, "What was the name of that?" And we had an Ovilus 5 with us, and, I was like, "What was the name of the chef that was up here in the kitchen?" And the Ovilus says, "Dan." And so, so then, like, 2 weeks later, same thing. We're like, "Who's the man that we were" and of course, we knew at this point, "Who's the man that, hangs out here in the kitchen?" Dan. So, we're trying to actually find him. We've got that on about 4 different occasions that we've either gotten Dan multiple times or Chef Dan. And so, we're trying to find out information as to whether there was really a cook there that, went by the name Dan, or maybe if it was an inmate who cooked in there and maybe they gave him the nickname of Chef Dan. So, we get quite a bit of that. I'm trying to think as far as last names. We had a sheriff that was shot there, Sheriff Richard Ellis, and different teams have gotten, they've gotten Ellis. They've also gotten RD, which he went by RD Ellis, and they've also gotten Richard. So that's the occasion that we've actually gotten a last name with.
Well, I have a question for you guys is being investigators. Have you ever asked them or have you ever gotten an answer as to why they're there? I've asked that out of frustration about that little girl in that meeting that was apparently talking to her. Said, David, she said she doesn't have anywhere else to go. This is her family. She doesn't know where her mom or dad is. And because I was frustrated, I said, why is that little girl here? Why would you want to be in the most depressing, dark area in the entire damn complex, and you're in this back room where you hang out? Well, that's where the blood is, and that's a whole nother story.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
and that's what she said. She says, looked at me like I was stupid. Well, just she said she doesn't have anywhere else to go, doesn't know where else to go, and she doesn't know where her parents are, which is kind of sad. It's like, but have you heard somebody explain why they're still there, why they choose to be hanging on? It's
Personally,
always
myself, I've
curious.
heard different things. I've gotten different responses based on different ones. I've even had at a couple different places where they'll say, we can't tell you, there's rules, and
Sure.
so, yeah, but I don't know if they were just kind of being an asshole, or if, they just literally couldn't. We've had instances where we've gotten, that they'll say they're trapped, that they can't move on. There's some odd responses to that. And so what I try to do, depending on the location that I'm at, I try to kind of look at the response and see, if this is a sense sort of like their own purgatory, as far as like a jail. Because like you said, that doesn't make sense to me with a child being stuck staying in, one of the worst places. We got something like that at Brushy as well, which was a jail. But then you have other places, kind of like the Grand Old Lady Hotel, which was just this amazing hotel that people went to get away. There were a couple tragic things that happened on the land that could explain why some of these entities were there, but it's almost more of a pleasant place that they're staying, because they're going there to get away, and to travel. So I try to look at the location and based on the response and see if I can kind of put the puzzle pieces together. But it just varies from the responses we've gotten.
Well, I don't know if I shared that with you before about the shadow guy down in the basement, or excuse me, the jail. Two different people, investigators, two different times have caught him on recording. If they both of them asked the same question, "Do you need help moving on?" And both times you hear his voice very clearly in the recorder say no. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you? They never give us, those guys never give their name, not even a last name, first name, nothing. They give you nothing other than get out, stay out, all of that. And just not friendly. The women have given their names.
Yeah, and that's pretty common.
But
Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, well, I'm just curious as to why those shadow guys, and I still don't know why they're shadow, why they are looking like shadows, and everybody else, when they do materialize, they look like people, old style people, but people. And those
Mhm.
guys are always black. They're always black shadows, 3D. Even the
You
guards that
know,
were in the building before
uh
said that there was shadow guys following them.
Well, and you may one of the best theories that I've heard of this, because shadow figures have always fascinated me, and one of the best theories that I've heard comes from Mike Ricksecker, and he's got a wonderful book about a walk in the shadows, and he talks about the different kinds of shadow people. He's spent a lot of time researching everything from like the Hat Man, the different types of shadows, the crawlers, the creepers, all of those. And he actually, I had him on my show, and one of the things he was talking about was the vibrations. And sometimes you may be the reason that they're seen that way could be because of the level that they're vibrating on and the level that you're vibrating on, like you match the vibrations. um so that was one of the theories he gave me, which actually makes sense as to why some people see things, some people hear things, and some people, and maybe even the same reason why some people don't hear the same EVPs the same way. So it may not necessarily be, I mean, because some people hear them as male when it's a female, some hear them as a whisper, some actually hear what they're saying. So that was one of the best that I heard, was that maybe it's the vibration, and that maybe they're not necessarily dark, but because of their spectrum that they're on, maybe they're so bright that that's actually how we see them,
Hmm.
is as a dark figure, and then some may
Yeah,
just
I
be
never thought
shadows.
of it that way.
So he
Yeah.
had some really interesting theories on.
Well, they don't answer me. Not that I talk to them,
So
but
and it may just be their ability to manifest. A lot of some things take a lot more energy than others. As far as like slamming a door, ripping a picture off the wall. I mean, those doors you have at your location are super heavy, and to be able to just kind of put a voice out there may not take as much energy as being able to actually manifest. So there's a lot of really interesting theories behind it. I know Vicky Norris says my thoughts on shadows are that they don't have enough energy to materialize color and complete form. Some, not all. And so, you know, I think that that's a very good theory as well.
Yeah.
It's the one on me. She was talking. She actually wanted me to do a drawing for her, and she was telling me that when she had this vision, she saw, four shadow figures standing around the hospital bed. And so I thought that was actually interesting that there was the shadow figures around the hospital bed. And so she was actually saying that she had, consulted with a medium, and that the medium had said that, it's the way we see things, and that, our eyes can't grasp and concept, and they can't see in that color spectrum. So therefore they're just showing up in black, which that
Hmm.
actually really resonated and made a lot of sense to me. But, you know, and people tend to sort of think that because they are dark shadows, that they may be more darker and more evil, and that's not always the case. Um, it's really just fascinating. And then when you really start diving into some of those theories and talking about light spectrums and talking about manifesting and that sort of thing, um, I, I, I personally believe you kind of have to start looking at the location and looking at the activity that's surrounding it to see maybe why they do. But with yours, what's interesting to me is it's the same way every time. Like everyone is seeing this shadow figure, everyone's seeing it react a certain way. Um, that's to me, it kind of, I don't know why when you said it, it kind of puts me in mind. Was there somebody who, like a maintenance person or somebody that worked there that, you know, maybe kind of took ownership of the building and didn't want to, kind of protective of it? It's kind of what it makes me wonder.
We've heard stories of other people, the custodians, saying that they had heard of a custodian. They gave, I forget the name, but that you sometimes would hear either jailer keys or custodian keys, and somebody walking, heavy steps walking. And I've never heard jailer keys. I've never heard that, but other people have and said, "Hey, I thought that was you because I carry the big keys that I have."
Mhm.
And I was in the office, and I says, "No, I wasn't back there at all." And they said, "Well, we heard somebody walking and keys jangling," and but I've never heard that myself. And this guy, when I saw him, or every time that I've been around and he's been around, I don't hear that at all. So I kind of like that theory that either he's not in a different spectrum and we're not seeing the light like we
Mhm.
should. Uh, People, the other thing, and I think it's more than just me, because everybody that's been back there to see him, or we videotaped him or photographed him, he's always the shadow guys. They're never a person that somebody saw a man back
Mhm.
there. Um, Although this last time we did, that being said, our last tour, a lady walks up to me, and it was a larger group tour, and she goes, "Look, I did want to freak out, but I told my husband when we walked past that last cell, and I was standing near the cell because I was there. Ghostbusters. We did a Ghostbuster movie thing. Ghostbusters led the tour,
Mhm.
and they're
Very
walking
cool.
through, and I'm just, oh yeah, it's they have the vehicles and everything. They look really cool, dressed up, and did the tour, and they were walking past me, and I was in the hallway, the main jail hallway that she saw. And she says it was the jail that was next to me. When she passed it, she says there was a man standing in there. Um, did you have anybody standing? I says, no, it was me and my partner standing here, and the rest of you guys were on the tour. She goes, well, I knew I saw him. There was a man standing in the shadows there. I saw him. I said, was he a dark shadow? He said, no. She said he was a white guy. And I could tell he had kind of a beard, and he had like a checkered shirt or something, looked plaid or checkered. I says, okay. Well, what else did he do? She says, I walked past him really quick. I didn't look back. And I said, well, we were standing right next to the cell. There's nobody in there that we saw.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe she saw him and he was, enough energy where she could actually see who he was. But everybody else says, shadow guy, dark guy,
Mhm.
no form, no facial features, just dark. So interesting. And I keep asking every investigating team that goes in there, please ask for first and last name, especially that guy back
Mhm.
there, but he never
Mhm.
answers anybody other than get out, just the rude stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I just
Huh.
wonder if you guys had any more luck with shadow guys, if they actually have conversations other than, the negative stuff.
We've not with, not with the ones that we've been able to capture on video, because we've actually been able to capture the shadow arm when he pulled the photo off the wall the very first time,
Yeah.
and we've never gotten a name. I have some theories on him, but he's seen a lot on the second floor. I know the previous jailer saw one on the third floor during the last administration that was in there in the jail. But and then we've got this shadow figure that has shown up in several pictures there on our drunk tanks. So they're pretty prevalent there. I don't know if it's the same one or not.
Do you think they're
Um,
people or entities?
uh, I kind of I kind of flip-flop a little bit. I tend to think that, they may be people,
Hmm.
but, there's things that happen that made me think they could possibly be just entities. Um, I'm my theory's kinda the jury's still out on that a little bit.
Gotcha.
Not really sure, but
Well,
I
when you
tend to
find out, let
think
me know.
it's just another form of manifestation. I will.
Okay.
I definitely will. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap on up here in a few minutes.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much for coming on and
Really
sharing with the
appreciate
jail.
it.
And I look
Absolutely.
forward to yeah, I look forward to talking to you again here real soon. If anyone wants to do any of your other tours that you have, go ahead and plug that because I know that you're not just doing the paranormal. I mean, that's a new branch for you, but you've got a lot of other tours people can do.
It's mainly outdoor stuff. We do hiking and we do biking, different types. We're about to in June through July. We'll be heavy into kayaking on the river, the Rio Grande here, and tubing and things like that. That's every weekend and weekdays. So we stay really busy with that. We've got some things going at Lake Caballo, which is 45 minutes up right now in May. Two different tours there. One's a star party at night, Native American storytelling with kayaks. We light up the kayaks with the glow sticks, and everybody paddles out to the lake, and it's very still. And he does a Greek interpretation and Native American interpretation of the stars with a laser pointer. Then everybody comes back to base camp. We have a campfire, hors d'oeuvres, and wine and things like that, and guitarists, and then kind of make it a night, an hour. Then the day tours there at Caballo is his birding tours, basically with kayaks and talk about the local fauna and the geology there. So those will be going on in May. And then we do plane tours, 3 different types of plane tours, flyovers of different areas that we know that are interesting. And we do the hiking. We do Native American sites and ghost towns and things like that. Around here, we have some really cool ghost towns. So we usually group 2 or 3 together and have lunch and things like that. And just wine tours, of course, 2 different wine tours. One of them's with hot tubbing and out in Deming area, and Native American sites. Historic forts. We do historic fort tours, and basically, we've done every one of these things. We don't do them all at once. We're a small company, so we're going out. We market to businesses to take their groups out. Say, hey, what do you want to do? Here's a budget. Do you want us to do a hot lunch? Do you want us to do a grill out, steak and chicken fajitas on the river or up in the mountains? Do you want to bring your own lunch or no lunch? So it's a Chinese kind of menu thing they select from, depending on their budget and the number of people, and then we put those together. So we can do all of those things. It's just depending on what they want to do, and group sizes depending on what they're wanting to do, up to 40 people. Well, of
Okay.
course, more than that for the paranormal stuff. We're trying to do some, remember team building used to be big back then,
Yes. Hmm.
and pre-COVID and all that. So we're trying to re-enter that with these guys. Say, hey, look, get your team out, have a fun thing, but a training thing, and we can do that on kayaks and tubes. And we're going to do. We're setting up a treasure hunt in the jail, where
Oh,
it's a team thing. It's a timed event. 1 hour looking for the treasure. They're going to all end up in the jail, a nice spooky area, but it's a timed event. So they choose their name of their team and they get prizes and bragging rights. So we're going out actively to businesses now to say, hey, sign your guys up for this and come out and do it. So stuff like that.
that's very cool. Very cool. So, and that can be found Southwest Expeditions.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
pretty much everything on there. We have a
Awesome.
bunch of tabs. But those are the things we can do if your group's coming down and want to spend time here in the Southwest. We definitely welcome you.
Awesome. Well, again, David, thank you so much for coming on
Thanks for
tonight
having
and
me.
sharing what you're doing. Definitely want to get back out there and spend some time. I want to go out and actually do some of the outdoors tours next time I'm out there because it's just beautiful area.
Oh gosh, well, come out during June or July. We'll put you on the kayaks. You can do a little 9-10 mile kayak run. You guys will
Love
really
it.
like it,
Love
and
it.
we'll do a hot lunch out there. Thank you
Sounds
guys so
great.
much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you all so much in the chat room for, sticking with us, for your questions and your comments. We really appreciate you guys. Next 2 weeks, we've got some great shows coming up. Next week, I'm going to be having, let's see, I'm going to be having Carl, who was in the who was in the chat room there, and then also, like I said, I want to make sure I'm saying this right. And also Russ Bailey, he's going to be on. I'd mentioned that at the top of the show. They're going to be on. I'm also going to be getting to meet them next week at St. Albans because Enigma Cons is coming up next week, where I'll be speaking at St. Albans, as well as a lot of other great folks. They're going to be there. It's going to be a full weekend next weekend up in Radford, Virginia. And then the very next Thursday night, I'm going to be having Mr. Greg Coase on. And so we're going to be talking about some of the things that he's doing there in the Midwest, his team, and some of the adventures that he's been on through his paranormal journey. So you guys tune in for that. We'll probably next week I'm trying to do a live there at St. Albans, so we'll be coming on doing some of that during the investigations. We did it last year, did it for a few hours, so we'll have a little more information on that when I know the schedule a little bit better. So it'll be late, but want to tune in. And then also day after tomorrow at the historic Scott County Jail. For more information, go to historicscottcojail.com and come out and join us for our blessing of the bikes. So we'll probably end up going live there as well on Saturday, praying for good weather and for full parking lot, but we will definitely try to go live and show some of the bikes and show some of the things that's going on there. So until next Thursday night, I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you again, David.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Chris.